All right. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Jazakallah khair for joining. And apologies for the technical issues there, some delays. Alhamdulillah, it's a pleasure to be here and truly honored to be serving you at this moment in time. And to get together a community of healthcare professionals who are, inshallah, seeking their next best versions and seeking to elevate their status, what they do in healthcare as well as in life in general through Barakah. And today, inshallah, we will be talking about Elevate with Barakah, which is a framework that we've come up with that is grounded in spiritual intelligence and sustainable success for Muslim healthcare professionals. So the intention, inshallah, is to kind of realign and slow down to this framework for sustainable success for Muslim healthcare professionals and to beat quiet burnout with Barakah-based rhythms. And to explore why coaching, is a form of prophetic transformation. And then to invite you guys to consider joining the founding cohort for the Elevate with Barakah program or the Resilient Healthcare Worker program, inshallah. And I'm just going to slow down here and recite to you an ayah that I think many of you can relate to. And it's an ayah from Surah Al-Ra'd. We've probably all heard it many, many times. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I see a comment in the chat box. Let's get that before we do this. Okay, salam. Wa alaikum salam. Welcome, Samia. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. له معقبات من بين يديه ومن خلفه يحفظونه من أمر الله إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم وإذا أراد الله بقوم سوءا فلا مرد له وما لهم من دونه من وال. For every one from amongst you, there are angels replacing one another, in front of him and behind him, who guard him under the command of Allah. Surely Allah does not change the condition of a people unless they change themselves. When Allah intends evil for a people, there is no way to turn it back, and for them there is no patron other than Him. So what I wanted us to kind of slow down to in this ayah is this central portion of the verse, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that Allah does not change the condition of a people unless they change themselves. Two key things to take away from this portion of the ayah, and it's a very famous ayah, subhanAllah. One is, Allah is calling us to action. That when we're seeking change, when we're in a situation where we feel like something can be better, or things can be done differently, or I need to upgrade my steps in this area of life, then, this is what this ayah is calling us to. We have to take action. It's not something that we can sit back and just make dua and somehow it will happen by. Sorry about that. So basically, Allah is calling us to a sense of agency, that we have the potential, that we have what it takes, that we have the opportunity to inform the evolution of ourselves. And so we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the strength, the tawfiq, to be able to take action when it is necessary.
له
Okay, what is going on? Okay, I think I have this set on auto advance. But, we'll probably get to that recitation, inshallah. But I did want to go ahead so that we don't lose too much time while we're working on that technical side of things. But two things that the ayah is calling us to again, that sense of agency, and then the fact that without us taking action, nothing will change. And that's the essence, the core message of this webinar today. And, just briefly, for those of you who haven't been to any of our webinars in the past, this is just a little bit about myself. Main things to focus on is the ones in bold there. I'm a certified productivity partner with the Productive Muslim Company, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Sakeenah Growth Company, where the core focus of our work is bridging healthcare excellence with faith, resilience, and lasting impact. And you can find us online at any of these handles, inshallah, on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, as well as our website. All right. So I'll call you guys to a conscious Bismillah as we now delve and dive into the core discussion today. Muhammad Faris, one of my mentors, always asks us to slow down to a conscious Bismillah so that we take a moment to recognize that without asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission in this moment in time, that we will not be able to get the full blessing, the full barakah of this moment. So just take a moment to say a conscious Bismillah so that we all attract the barakah of this moment in time, inshallah. All right, so the hidden struggle. Many of us are doing, we feel like we're doing everything right, but there's still that nagging sensation that things are still off. We've trained hard, we've sacrificed so much, we serve daily, but there are other areas of our lives that are just not matching up. Think about your salah. How does it feel? If you were to rate your salah from 0 to 10 or 1 to 10, where would you rate it? Our families only get what's left of us because oftentimes we go through this cycle of wake up, work, we go home and we collapse. We have nothing left to give them. We're constantly giving others in healthcare, but rarely receiving any meaningful support. And the success on the outside, frankly, it feels very hollow. And burnout feels real and very familiar. And when you think about it, look at, any of these avatars that we have here, these archetypes. And if you can connect to any of these, try to, go ahead and drop a 1 in the chat box. So we have the overextended healer. They're always saying yes at works, running on fumes. But their own self-care, frankly, is the last thing on the list. They want energy, they want boundaries without guilt, but they're afraid to ask for it oftentimes. If this is someone that you can connect with, drop a 1 in the chat box. And then we have the spiritually hungry achiever. They're successful, but they feel far from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The things that are missing are the things that connect them to their creator, their salah, their dhikr. But they just keep going. They just keep going in motion. They're trying to reconnect with purpose and with barakah. If this is the one that you can connect with, drop a 2 in the chat box. And then we have the guilt-ridden parent who is physically home, but oftentimes they're not there. They're just, their body's there. There's many missed moments with spouse and their kids, extended family. And the family doesn't get it. They don't understand what's going on. But they want to lead with presence and peace. If this is the one that resonates with you, drop a 3 in the chat box. And then we have the exhausted advocate. They're completely burnt out by the system, by the inequities, by the fact that no one is really paying attention. And they're questioning why they're even doing all of this. They're questioning their place, they're questioning if they have a voice, um, and they want to rise in a situation that's truly authentic, that I'm Muslim, that my values matter, and that I want to show up as my true self. If this is the one that you can resonate with, drop a 4 in the chat box. And for some of you, it may actually be a mix of these. I can definitely relate to at different seasons in my life, kind of going through any of these. Samia says 2, and then she says, actually, it's a mix, subhanAllah. And then Ahar says 2, and Abdullah says 1. What about the rest of you guys? Okay. Yusuf says 4, Marza says 2. Yeah. Yeah, I'll make it easy for all of us. It truly is a struggle. And as we think about these 4 archetypes that we can all connect with, whether it's in ourselves or in our colleagues, we think about what is missing from any of these situations or in these situations. And frankly, it's a question of alignment. But alignment with what? It's a misalignment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will. In a situation where we have high output, which is where many of us tend to be, we often struggle with alignment with Allah's will in the way that we serve family, in the way that we take care of ourselves, in the way that we manage our relationships at work as well as outside of work. And ultimately, that leads to burnout. When we have high alignment, though, then we're able to get into this steady state of sustainable excellence. And that excellence is that we're able to do our best. We're able to show up in our best across the different roles that we play in life and at work. But the question is, what is barakah? There's many ways of defining barakah. The one that I connect with the most is the one at the top there, which was defined by Imam Raghib al-Asfahani, an 11th century scholar, that it's the attachment of divine goodness to a thing. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attaches this divine goodness to this thing, it causes it, like the tree that we see here, to be more stable, to be more long-lasting, right? And to have a continuous trajectory of goodness and khair always coming and emanating from it. And then when we think about it from the lens of Muslim healthcare professionals, how do we experience barakah? And as you guys are looking at this slide, I want you guys to think about barakah not just as tangible outcomes, but also that it may just be a perception that you have, some calmness, insights, decisions that you make, support. When scholars talk about risk, for example, they say it's not limited to just, your physical wealth, but it's everything that supports you. So the tangible ones tend to be more obvious. But sometimes we also need to slow down to the less tangible ones. Even long-term patient relationships, while we put it under tangible because we can kind of measure that, it can be intangible because those people come back to us with different types of forms of risk, whether it's in referrals or just the beautiful relationship that you sustain with them, or the reviews that you get or whatnot. But there's many ways that we experience barakah in healthcare. Which of these can you guys connect with? Or even other ideas of barakah for Muslim healthcare professionals? Surely there must be other ideas. All right. Okay. Somebody dropped something in the chat box. Yusuf says both. Okay. Alhamdulillah. All right. So as we experience what Barakah is, one thing I wanted to call our attention to is this idea of the Barakah gap model. It's a matrix. As I mentioned earlier, most of us, alhamdulillah, tend to perform highly because we don't have a choice. Lives of people are at stake. But the question is, where are we on the scale of alignment? But sometimes you can also have a situation where somebody is performing even low, like the surviving martyr here. Their performance is low and their alignment is low. And so they struggle a lot. They're the kind of people who they're just struggling, trying to show up day in and day out. When I think about my own trajectory, I think there were some moments in residency where I felt like this. If you guys can relate to your survival mode at different seasons of your life, drop a 1 in the chat box. So a couple of people. Yeah, beginning was hard. Yeah, can relate. And then you have a situation where many of us probably tend to find ourselves is that we're rocking it at work, mashallah. You're the respected achiever, but their alignment, frankly, is low. Like we talked about earlier, you have the person who is struggling with their salah, whether it's rushed or it's non-existent or is relegated to just Jummah or Ramadan, or their family is not able to access them deeply. There's this tendency or this struggle with quiet burnout. If this is the one that you can connect with either now or at different seasons of your life, go ahead and drop a 2 in the chat box. And then we have the person with the high alignment, but they're full of guilt and frustration because they're putting in a lot of effort in things outside of work, but they're quietly quitting at work. They're not really showing up. They're just showing up for the bare minimum. And part of it may be because their energy levels are low and they've deprioritized their self-care. And so they're not able to actually get to that level of performance that is more consistent and more aligned with where they want to be. If this is the one that you can relate to, drop a 2 in the 3 in the chat box. And then we have the Barakah leader, mashallah. They've been able to figure out that balance. Just this past week, I wrote in a LinkedIn post about a brother that I met recently. We were just having a chat with some healthcare professionals. And mashallah, he was talking about, as we were all discussing work-life balance, he was talking about his routines. He's able to get in 20,000 steps in a day somehow. He's able to, spend a lot of time with the Quran despite his very busy schedule. MashaAllah, he's a leading faculty at one of the leading healthcare organizations in the US. And, people like that, it doesn't just happen. It comes from being very intentional about the choices that they're making, having a significant level of self-awareness and an approach that is grounded in the blueprints that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Rasul have taught us, which is that we should take our portion of the dunya, but at the same time, we should not forget our akhirah in the process. And as healthcare professionals, we spend long hours, oftentimes irregular hours, serving others, and there's a chance that we lose ourselves in that moment, in those moments. And this Barakah Gap model is a reminder that there is a trajectory to get to that Barakah excellence. And we don't have to stay stuck in any of these other areas. And even the person that gets to that Barakah excellence state, which is truly a beautiful place to be, they can now be challenged to get to where they can start to help others to get there. So how do we get to that state of Barakah? So you guys have kind of identified where you are on the spectrum. And like I said, I can relate. I've been there many, many times. And the interesting thing about our deen is that our deen recognizes that we will have low points. But the question is, how do we get back on track when that low point hits, regardless of which archetype or which avatar we can connect with? If your key pain point is just energy dips, always tired, even after a long sleep, no time to eat right, exercise, or rest, always stressed, then you do need to get to a point where energy is the thing that you focus on and that you build upon. For some of us, it's a struggle with finding space for connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our busy days. When you get to that transformed state of barakah, where you are able to make space for salah intentionally, for dhikr, and the many other things like Quran that add barakah to our time, to our focus, to our energy, then you will start to enjoy this new vitality in how you work, but also in how you live life. And then for some others, it's really about the family and their relationships, just not getting enough quality time, and they're drowning in guilt because they're disconnected from their loved ones. But it is possible to get to a place where you're spending quality time. And quality time doesn't necessarily mean more time. It truly means quality time, where you have less guilt. And it requires a commitment to simple routines. It requires intentional work. And then for others, subhanAllah, it's being burnt out. There's a lot of chaos going on. There's no clarity about how to approach it. And work is just not as fulfilling as it used to be. Because all these other areas of life are just not working out, subhanAllah. So how might we make that transformational shift from that survival mode to Barakah excellence? That's really the call to action today, is this Elevate with Barakah model that we've kind of been working on for some time and wanted to share with you today. But before I go on, I just wanted to slow down here. Any thoughts, any questions, any insights coming up for you guys as you've kind of been looking at the avatars that we've shared so far? Please feel free to share in the chat box. And actually, I will go ahead and unmute since we have just about 10 people here. The only thing I'll ask is if you do want to speak, do you raise up your hand, inshallah? But I want this for you guys, since you guys showed up to get maximum value, inshallah. This opportunity. So if there's any thoughts, any insights that's coming up for you guys, please do share in the chat box. I think I've muted everyone at this point. Okay. All right, so talking about the three-phase journey to Barakah excellence. The first phase is the activation phase, where we really go into the foundations of attracting Barakah in something we've kind of taught in the past through the Burnout Proof Foundations Masterclass. And I'll go into some detail about that. We go into self and spiritual foundations, where we really go into understanding your best self and having those spiritual foundations that help you to connect and really align with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will. And then we dive into energy, time, and the focus foundations. And we wrap that together in what we call the keystone habits of highly successful spiritually intelligent Muslim healthcare professionals. That takes about 3 months. But then there's the Barakah deepening phase, where we go, systematically over 6-week sprints, looking at the different core areas of life. So our health and energy really is a is a pivotal one, deen. And then our love and relationships, and then work. By the time you go through all of those phases intentionally, you've kind of found a way, you've kind of developed a system of getting to that Barakah excellence by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission. I think the phases also have to factor in seasons of life. Absolutely. For sure, phase one is key. But like our patients, sometimes they don't fit the standard model. Absolutely. So it is flexible. Um, it's absolutely exactly how you said, Samia. So for some people, like we showed in that journey to Barakah, the focus is primarily on their energy. For others, it's deen. For others, it's about their relationships. And for others, it's also work. And then in that mastery phase, we go into identity ownership. That's where, inshallah, you've kind of owned this transformation. And then you create your own habits portfolio. And then you master the art of course correction because life will happen. And so we want you to go through these phases in a way that's meaningful and sustainable so that when things happen in life, you have a blueprint that you can always fall back on, inshallah. Does this make sense? Any questions about this? No questions? All right. So this is the elevate part of it. So it's basically a deeper dive into what I've just explained. The months 1 to 3 is where we establish those Barakah foundations. And then we go into those sprints. The first sprint is about living with purpose. So connecting deen with spiritual mastery. But again, the live with purpose, all these sprints, it's very dependent on each individual, and those can be kind of moved around. Excel in your calling. So focusing on ihsan at work. And then in that vitality, kind of focusing on health and energy, which is really, really important. I think that if there's one piece that many of us don't pay attention to, especially in healthcare, it may be that part, which is ironic, right? Because this is what we talk to many of our patients about. And then in the align with your values sprint, we focus on family, relationships, love. And then in the final 3 months, again, it's focusing on just consolidating identity, habits, and routines, and mastering autonomy, and that next best version of yourself. Does this make sense? Any questions, any thoughts about this? Okay, so the thing that I wanted to share with you, that framework is built into this program that we've developed. It's a group coaching program for Muslim healthcare professionals to realign their work, elevate their performance, and embody their spiritual resilience. Now, before we go into details about it, I wanted to spend about 10 to 15 minutes with you guys actually working through these questions and this reflection. So it's going to be like a Barakah hackathon where we actually spend a few minutes working through this so that you guys get firsthand taste of what we've described so far. So let me have my assistant share this link in the chat box. And you guys, what I'll ask is if you guys will just make a copy for yourselves. And let's see here. Make a copy for yourselves. And then we'll get started, inshallah. Okay, so Biola, if you can help share this link in the chat box. And then we can work through it, inshallah. Oh, okay. She's having technical issues. Let me see if I can share it here. Are you guys ready? Inshallah. So, Samia says it does make sense as a general framework, however, it may need individual tailoring and personalized diagnostic session first. Absolutely. Okay, that is the link. So let me know, put a one in the chat box once you've opened it and made a copy for yourself, inshallah. Samia says personal diagnostic session. I Google. Healthcare professionals, we like diagnosing stuff. I would say yes, it does require tailoring. I think we mentioned that earlier. But what it does is it gives structure in a way that ensures accountability so that we stay on course and inshallah beyond the program we're able. You don't see it? Okay, let me do it again. So do you see it now? Okay, alhamdulillah. All right, guys, put a one in the chat box once you open this and you're able to get started. It won't take long. It probably won't take us more than 10 minutes, inshallah. But I think it will be useful. Once you've been able to open it, do tap a one in the chat box. Samia is good to go. Okay. Let's get a couple more and then we'll get started. Anyone else good to go? Yeah. So you can make a copy for yourself. Dr. Mirza, Jazakallah khair. Abdullah is good to go. Yusuf is good to go. Okay. How's it going now, Dr. Mirza? Because if it's editor mode, what will happen is we're gonna see what you're gonna put in. So you want to make a copy for yourself. Um, yeah. Either your laptop or you could use a phone. You can still make a copy on the phone as well. Let's give it a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Okay, Dr. Mirza's got it. Dantana. Dantana, you want to unmute yourself? What is your struggle? Let's see if we can help as a group. We have some tech savvy folks here who may be able to help. If you have good connection, you should be able to get it. Is everyone good to go? Okay, alhamdulillah. So let's begin. This is we call it the Barakah Reset worksheet, and it kind of goes through all the things we've talked about. And like you said, Samia, it's actually tailored. So you can very much personalize it by going through this process. And regardless of which way you guys decide to go with this program, I think inshallah this will be a very useful um, resource for you guys to use as you explore your next best versions, bismillah. So let's start. You know, at the top there, you can see, as we've discussed earlier, Barakah is really about attracting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's divine goodness to everything that we do. And we do that by aligning ourselves. So the first question or the first phase of that activation phase is to have clarity and be present to how things are currently going for us. So think about something you're doing now that kind of looks successful on the outside. But when you slow down, it doesn't necessarily, deep down it's not the most successful thing that you're doing. And don't overthink it. Whatever comes to your mind first is what you should put down. And then think about the flip side in relation to that thing. If you had a barakah-filled week, what would it look like when you wake up? And what is one habit that you can commit to that will help you um, to connect the dots with that? Drop a 1 in the chat box if you're good with the section on clarity and presence, question 1 and 2. Okay, Yusuf is good. MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah. Yes, it does make us to slow down, which is what we struggle with as healthcare professionals. We don't slow down. We just want to keep going. Um, and some very insightful people, mentors that I've had, have told me that the busier I get in life, the more we need to actually slow down. So as healthcare professionals, busy folks, serving others, slowing down is actually a strength. The more we can leverage it, the better we get. Right, simple doesn't mean easy. Absolutely. How's everyone else doing with the first two questions? Sometimes we have to slow down to speed up. Absolutely. Ah, Sister Farah, I didn't realize you were here. Jazakallah khair for joining. Thank you. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Anyone else? Everyone else good with uh, clarity and awareness of where we need to focus? Questions 1 and 2. Drop a 1 in the chat box or just tell us you're done and ready to move on. Or maybe you guys have already moved on and I'm the one still here. Okay, for those who have finished with level 1, go ahead and move to the deepen phase where you think through habits and identity. Look at those Barakah habits and circle the one that you want to work on, from today onwards. the one that's really the area that's um, gonna make a big difference for you, a high value, high yield habit, or something you feel like you've been struggling with for some time, but you can't keep not doing anything about it. And then think about why you chose that one. And then the identity that will help you. So I'll give you guys an example. Some of my mentors and friends have challenged me and the whole group that we need to do a major physical challenge this year. So inshallah, we made the intention to prepare or to go for a marathon. So the identity we have to assume is the identity of an athlete, which means rain or shine, we're gonna show up to work out and prepare for this marathon that's coming up, inshallah. For you, it may be Quran, the identity of a student of Quran. Rain or shine, if you're not doing it every day, you may commit to doing 5 minutes after Fajr every day as an identity. So think about what identity you want, because that's what's going to keep you going back to it. If you don't think about the identity and your why, most likely after a couple of days, it will disappear. Now drop a 1 in the chat box if you're good to go here, and then we'll get to the final phase, inshallah. Yes, I can. Okay, Samia is ready. Okay, I will, yes. I think I forgot to do that when I was trying to send you guys the link. So let me do that again. All right, so now let's go to the mastery phase where we focus on micro change. So what is one small Barakah aligned shift that you can make in that area this week? So like in the example I gave, if you're preparing for a marathon and you're a couch potato right now, you're not going to start running 5K tomorrow, but you can put on it may just be take a walk, a 5-minute walk around the block as your commitment for the first week. If you're not a Quran, deeply connected to reciting or connecting with the Quran on a daily basis, you won't jump to one page or one juz in a day or in the first week. It may be one line. What is that small micro shift that you can make? And don't worry, the shift honestly has to be laughable, but there is a power in just making that small change, because that's what compounds and gets you to that vision that you want, that future self that you want to get to. If you don't take those baby steps, you won't be able to get there. And remember, there's a lot of research behind it. There's the science of tiny habits, which is actually something that we go into in detail during this coaching program. And then there's also the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha that the most beloved deeds to Allah are deeds that are consistent or constant in some narrations, even if they're small. So don't worry too much about that. Make sure you choose something, commit to it. And then number 7, really imagine yourself. Close your eyes for a minute. Imagine yourself reading 1 juz a day. How will that feel? Or yourself at the finish line of that marathon, or in whatever habit that you're committing to. And how will you show up on that day? And then close this out with your Barakah intention. Really commit to what you intend to. And my mentor always talks about the difference between intention and commitment. Here, actually, what I want you guys to think about it is that you're committing to this. It's not something you're just doing because we're doing it as a group now. If you're doing it just for us as a group, then it's really not worth your time. So really commit to this, you know, everything, all the steps that you've kind of gone through, commit to it, the baby steps. When exactly are you going to start it tomorrow or this evening, or in the next few days? And set yourself up for success tied to something that you already do consistently. Maybe your salah. Uh, maybe it's specifically one salah, or maybe it's your morning routine. Maybe it's pretty spot on. All right. Please drop a one in the chat box if you've been able to complete this. Alhamdulillah. It took us about 11 minutes so far. Don't think too much about this. And you can spend more time on this if you want after the webinar, inshallah. Um, and you can even look at other areas of your life, but don't overdo it. So number 7. Okay, number 7. Yes, you may need more time, but let me explain number 7. One of the companions of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam asked him a question. And you guys have probably heard this hadith before. Mata sa'a. When is the day of judgment? The companion asked. The Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam flipped the question for him and said, what did you prepare for it? So what the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was doing in that moment, or at least one of the things he was doing in that moment, according to the scholars, is helping the companion to think about their future self, right? It's not about the day, but rather your future self that will inshallah be successful on that day. How are you preparing today for that future self? So there's this concept of be your future self now. So if you want to be a student of Quran, start today, meaning assume the identity of the student of Quran, or somebody who is a companion of the Quran, or somebody who is an athlete. Start today, commit to it. And that commitment is, first of all, assuming that identity, envisioning yourself. So closing your eyes for a moment and really connecting with that vision of that identity, and then embracing it. And then taking baby steps every day that reinforce that identity. Because the more baby steps you take, it actually makes that identity stronger until, like, dress for the job you want. Exactly. Thank you for sharing that. Does that help, Dr. Mirza? Yeah. Okay. In the interest of time, I will move on. And before I continue, let me ask you guys for permission to stay 10 minutes past the hour, because we probably need about 10 to 15 minutes to wrap up what's left, inshallah. Is that okay with you guys, inshallah? Can I get a one in the chat box or just some acknowledgements? No? Yes? Okay. Jazakallah khair. All right. Oh, Samia gives me 3 ones, mashallah. Okay. All right. No worries. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so let's talk about the Resilient Healthcare Worker Program. We've kind of highlighted the biggest part of it, which is the framework. And the Burnout Proof Foundations Masterclass, which is 6 modules plus 6 working sessions, where we cover these 6 concepts: becoming your best version, and then really going deep into spirituality and your best self, where we dive into the Barakah paradigm, and then mastering your energy for peak performance at work and in life, and then how to conquer distractions in healthcare, work, and life. And then the fifth one, how to leverage time for peak performance across all of your roles in life. And then finally, we wrap it up and how to cultivate habits and routines for resilience. This is something that we cover over 3 months in these 6 modules because the coaching is designed to be 2 coaching sessions a month plus 2 working sessions a month. So this is not some rapid transformation exercise. And then in module 1, just going deeper, the core essence of module 1 is to really understand, what we call the Islamic psycho-spiritual model of the soul. In simple terms, that's understanding the connection between our soul and our body. And when they come together, they become the nafs, which is really what drives many of the choices that we make when there's no self-mastery. When there's self-mastery, we understand that that driver should actually be our spiritual heart, our qalb. But that requires cultivation, that requires a lot of intentionality. And then that will lead, inshallah, the nafs, to make better choices. And then in module 2, it's the core essence of module 2 is really going over the Barakah culture, the mindsets, the values, and rituals. And then something we call the gardener mindset and the carpenter mindset. And then something that I've been talking about lately, for those who would like to go deeper, we've done 2 webinars about spiritual intelligence and healthcare work over the last 2 months, alhamdulillah. So we go over those also in more detail in module 2. And then in module 3, it's really about energy for peak performance. Without mastering our self-care, self-discipline, we almost are not able to perform in other areas of our lives. And then in module 4, it's all about distractions. We live in a world where distractions everywhere, focusing on work, focusing on life, focusing on the choices that we make so that the decisions that we're making are very high quality and they're grounded in this Barakah paradigm. And then leveraging time. The biggest concept under time for peak performance is really mastering time by managing ourselves because we realize that the core essence of time management is not in time itself, but in the choices that we make around time. And then in module 6, we go into putting everything together, understanding the science of habits and routines, and then culminating in the 11 habits of spiritual intelligence, burnout-proof healthcare professionals. Any questions about that? Any thoughts? No worries, Samia. It came through 3 times. Okay. All right. I will keep going. So the coaching program is a 12-month long program, and the cohort size is 10. And it's designed to give you, inshallah, coaching and mentoring support, community and growth, and then implementation support. So there'll be 2 live coaching calls a month, which will be about 60 to 90-minute long, and then an additional one-on-one coaching every quarter. And then, of course, you have community of like-hearted professionals, an accountability partner that's gender-based, and then we have the community platform. And then implementation is where many of us tend to struggle, right? So we have this implementation support kind of built in as well, which is where we have 2 working sessions per month to really go deep and support folks that need that extra support. It's optional, but it is there. And then we have weekly touch points, asynchronous touch points for reviewing your week, planning your week, because it's really important. Like I mentioned earlier, the more you have on your plate, the more you need to figure out how to slow down. Any questions about this? Thoughts? Okay. And then some important dates to keep in mind. So the enrollment closes next weekend, inshallah, on the 2nd of August or the 7th of Safar. And the onboarding session for the group, inshallah, is going to be on the Sunday, 8th of Safar, 3rd of August. And then the first formal group coaching session is going to be the week after, inshallah. So, all right. And here's a testimonial from one of the physicians who were taking masterclass in some of our courses in the past.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Mustafa Yusuf. I attended Dr. Sulyman time management workshop as part of the VRIC Leadership Academy. I definitely learned a lot from his workshop, and I highly recommend him. Dr. Suleiman have deep knowledge, and he's very passionate about the topics of time management and peak performance in the Barakah culture. May Allah reward him, and I strongly recommend him for our community leaders and entrepreneurs, and we'll continue to learn from him. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. And here's a written testimonial. I'll take a minute to look at that, inshallah. And one of our coaching clients may be able to also share some thoughts, inshallah. Rimmel, are you able to speak? If not, that's okay, inshallah. If you're able to, you can unmute yourself. If not, we will keep going, inshallah. The key thing I wanted you guys to kind of focus on here for Dr. Ahmed is the second paragraph. And she highlights the ideas presented, specifically focusing on time, managing ourselves by managing time by managing ourselves. That there's this concept of using time as an asset, and then each moment in time has the best version of itself. We're all here, mashallah, in this webinar. We could be doing other things, but we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to, make this time that we're spending here meaningful for us, and that it's the best version of this moment in time for all of us. Okay, and then just highlighting again the things that will be you can gain from participating in this coaching experience: a high performance lifestyle that's grounded in faith, clarity, having personal systems, personal barakah systems for your time, for your salah, for your energy, for your family, and then a coaching process that really helps you to transform from the inside out and not the other way around. One of the brothers that I had worked with in the past sent me a message yesterday about how he's really struggling with, just focusing on the external, but he realizes that most of the work does need to be internal, and that's really what sustains. And that's where that identity transformation that we've been talking about, it's so crucial. And that's why it's built into this program. And of course, you're going to have the support of a community of like-hearted Muslim healthcare professionals who can relate and connect. You can share resources, share ideas, inshallah. There is a comment in the chat box. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so there is an investment to the coaching. The 12-month program, inshallah, is valued at $10,000, alhamdulillah. And then we have different payment plan options for folks, who want to join. And, we want it to be flexible, we want it to be accessible. One thing I didn't put on here is that we also have a quota for scholarships. One of our actually, two of those slots out of the 10 have been taken. And one of them was actually taken by one of our colleagues, outside of the US who does want, that scholarship. So, mashallah, if finances is going to be something that's going to get in the way, please don't let that get in the way. If this is something that you think the timing is right for you, and the resource and the coaching experience is something that you believe is something that will give you the confidence and the courage to take the next steps, to get you where you want to be, inshallah. So don't let that get out of the way. Now, there's also additional bonuses. For the first 5 people who sign up, 2 of those slots again are already gone. They will get 3 additional one-on-one coaching sessions that they can leverage anytime throughout the course of the year. This is on top of the one-on-one coaching session that everyone gets every quarter. And then for the first 7, there's also the opportunity to quickly revisit some of these workshops, masterclasses that we've done in the past at your own pace. There is, for those who are struggling with sleep, we did a sleep webinar that's really focused on healthcare professionals. And then we did a session on focus also for clinicians. And then we did the Ramadan Mastery Masterclass, which has, people have found very beneficial. You can leverage it even now or, closer to Ramadan, inshallah. And then we have a special bundle for the founding cohort. So not just the first 5 or the first 10 or the first 7, we have a special bundle for all 10 who sign up, inshallah, for the first, for this founding cohort. Because the way we've done this class in the past has been more of masterclass focus as well as one-on-one coaching. So this is the first time we're going to do a group coaching cohort. So there's lifetime access. Then there's access to future cohorts at a 50% discount. And then there's access to the annual healthcare professionals seed planting and visioning workshop that we do annually. And then there's a welcome gift on how to get the most out of coaching. And then the Barakah Journal. This program is not for everyone. It's for those who are really ready to commit and feel aligned with, the concepts that we're sharing, and they're ready to commit and do the work. If you're looking for quick fixes, this is not the solution. If you're looking to just, whatever, if you're looking for something that's not aligned, then this is not the program for you. So comment in the chat box. We will get there, inshallah, Dr. Mirza. So a few questions that people may have. Is this faith-based, performance-based? It is both. It's spiritually grounded, but it's also informed by peak performance science. For those of you who are familiar, it's also known as the productivity science, the science of, managing yourself so that you can be your best version. Some people may be thinking, what if I'm not burnt out? Well, it's going to help you get to the next level, inshallah, even if you're not. That's been my experience. I've had firsthand experience with burnout with my wife, but not with myself directly. So I can speak to that, and I've benefited immensely from coaching classes. And then, wellness has become a big deal and in leadership development in the healthcare industry. So I have leveraged CME in the past for courses like this, for coaching programs. So absolutely, we can provide a letter to support you if you need that for, to access CME. And it is a safe space. It's a high trust container. Everyone that's going to be in that group will benefit. All right, Dr. Mirza, you were asking, how do you sign up? So because we want to make sure that it is the right program for you, we actually didn't put the payment link here. What we've done is you have the opportunity to talk to me some more, inshallah, about this. So what I want you to do, if you're interested, is to sign up for option 2 here, which is the clarity call, which is the next step for those who are already interested and feel like this works is what they're looking for. For those who are not ready, timing maybe not not absolutely right, then you can scan the QR code for the wait list, and inshallah we'll give you priority when we do open it up for the next cohort, inshallah. Any questions so far? Okay. And as a final reflection, Just wanted to share a hadith from Anas ibn Malik. Okay, I can surely post the link, inshallah, in the chat. Yep. Okay, we'll do that in just a minute. But here's the hadith from Anas ibn Malik, radiallahu anhu. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, even if the resurrection were established upon one of you while he has in his hand a sapling, let him plant it. So I reference this hadith in connection to like the first Quranic verse that we started with, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Allah will not change the situation of a people unless they change themselves. That Quranic ayah is talking about agency. We all have that agency, that self-agency to transform, to choose to transform. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this hadith is reminding us that even in the moments that we're super weak, very vulnerable, the day of resurrection is upon us. He's telling us we still have agency. If you're thinking about transforming, you're thinking about changing in a core area of your life, and you're feeling helpless, this is a reminder, that ayah and this hadith from the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that you can do something about it, even in those weakest moments. So I just want to encourage everyone, please do take action. There's many ways to take action. This coaching program is one of them. It's not the only option by any stretch, but it is one option. And if you feel aligned, then inshallah, do reach out, inshallah. For those who are just, kind of exploring, we have the newsletter, we have, our WhatsApp community, alhamdulillah, as well. And in closing, just want to say that transformation doesn't require perfect timing. It just requires that we're sincere and we're ready to work hard. Jazakallah khair. Let me go ahead and take any questions that anyone else has, and then I'll work on sending that link in the chat box, inshallah.